Ever notice how sunscreen labels make protection sound almost certain, like you'll just be fine as long as the number looks big enough? But what if that number is less meaningful than we've been trained to believe? Personally, I think Australia is forcing a much bigger conversation here, not just about sunscreen, but about trust, transparency, and whether evidence actually shows up the way consumers think it does. And the scariest part is that this debate is happening while people still use sunscreen every single day, trusting the label like it's a receipt. So here's what's going on. Australia's Therapeutic Goods Administration, the TGA, has floated a set of reforms that would basically tighten the whole sunscreen regulation system: how SPF is tested, who tests it, what gets published, and which parts of the label are allowed to exist. From my perspective, this is less about changing sunscreen as a product and more about redesigning the rules of measurement. Because even the best ingredient in the world can't compensate for weak testing standards or confusing claims. What makes this really interesting is that the proposals came after both international developments and very local pressure, especially from consumer group choice and media scrutiny. And honestly, that pattern is familiar. Regulation doesn't usually move until someone puts numbers on the table. When Choice reported that 16 out of 20 popular sunscreens didn't meet the SPF claims on their labels, it wasn't just a gotcha moment. It was a credibility crisis. Now, the TGA's reforms are trying to restore confidence by making SPF testing more reliable and better supervised. They're talking about strengthening oversight of the labs that run SPF tests, and allowing new testing technologies to be adopted more quickly. Personally, I think this is one of those unglamorous regulatory moves that matters more than flashy advertising ever will. Because if your measurement system is shaky, you don't just get slightly wrong data, you get a whole market built on miscalibration. But the biggest emotional punch in this story is the tension between the number culture of SPF and the reality of what SPF actually means. The TGA flagged an option that would replace SPF numbers with categories like low, medium, high, and very high. One thing that immediately stands out is how this is trying to solve a communication failure, not necessarily a chemistry failure. In my opinion, the label is doing psychological work. It tells consumers what to buy and how safe they should feel. And here's where the TGA's reasoning gets fascinating. They argue that the SPF scale isn't linear, meaning the difference between, say, SPF 30 and SPF 50 is smaller than people assume, and the gap gets even less meaningful as SPF numbers get higher. This raises a deeper question: are we treating SPF like a simple ladder, when it behaves more like a curve? From my perspective, what many people don't realize is that our brains love round numbers because they feel objective. But the underlying performance doesn't always deliver the intuitive, bigger number equals proportionally better protection story. The TGA also frames this as a consumer choice problem. Clear categories are supposed to help people match products to their needs, like everyday use versus higher UV exposure. Personally, I think this idea is compelling, because it acknowledges that consumers aren't reading lab science, they're reading labels. And if the label is designed like a decision shortcut, then the shortcut has to reflect how the product actually performs. However, I'm also sympathetic to the concern that changing from numbers to categories could create confusion in the opposite direction. Choice, for example, supports stronger testing and transparency, but they're against this style of rating reform, using words or graphics instead of the numerical scale introduced in the 1960s. What makes this disagreement important is that it highlights how regulation is always balancing two things: clarity for consumers and consistency with the broader system everyone is used to. Personally, I think it's not enough to be more understandable if it breaks comparability across brands, countries, and even time. And the TGA itself admits there's a cost and a trade-off. Changing labeling rules would require legislative amendments, industry investment, and could diverge from other countries that still use numerical SPF ratings. In my opinion, that divergence risk is real, because consumers travel, shop online, and compare products globally. If Australia moves away from numbers, people might end up comparing apples to a different kind of fruit. The bigger question is whether category labels would be universally intuitive, or just another label style people learn to misinterpret. Now let's talk about transparency, because this is where the reforms could be genuinely transformative. Right now, sunscreen makers aren't required to provide their SPF testing data to the TGA, which means the evidence supporting an SPF rating isn't always visible to outside scrutiny. Personally, I think this is the heart of the trust issue. If you only show the final result but not the supporting evidence, you're asking consumers to believe in the system rather than the proof. The TGA proposes making test results public so researchers and consumer groups can scrutinize them. This aligns with a broader regulatory trend toward openness and evidence-based decision-making. From my perspective, open data is powerful because it turns one regulator's oversight into a whole ecosystem of oversight. Academics, journalists, and watchdog groups can spot patterns, outliers, and potential weaknesses. But the TGA also flags a drawback: public data could expose trade secrets, like formulation details. They argue competitors might reverse engineer products or benchmark them unfairly. One thing that's easy to underestimate is how trade secrets and procedurally testable evidence collide in the real world. Personally, I think regulators need to find a middle lane, publish what's necessary to validate claims while protecting genuinely proprietary information. It's not impossible, but it's politically and legally tricky. Another detail I find fascinating is that the reforms aren't only about SPF numbers, they also include lifecycle quality assurance. That means periodic testing, ingredient standards, and strengthening quality expectations across time, not just at the moment a product first hits the shelf. Personally, I think that part matters because quality can drift. Manufacturing changes, supply chains, and even batch-to-batch variation can affect performance. If regulators only check once, you can end up with a label that stays the same while the reality quietly changes. The TGA also mentions enabling new testing technologies and updating good manufacturing practice guidance to improve manufacturing quality. In my opinion, this is where regulation becomes less about getting it right today and more about building a system that stays accurate tomorrow. It's the difference between taking a single snapshot and running continuous quality assurance. Now, stepping back, the real story here is bigger than sunscreen. What this really suggests is that public trust is now a regulated variable. When consumer investigations uncover mismatch between claims and test outcomes, regulation responds, but the response has to be designed to prevent the next mismatch before it reaches the consumer. Personally, I think the sunscreen sector is just a high-visibility example of a broader problem. Many markets rely on claims that are hard for ordinary people to verify. And that's why the proposed reforms, testing reliability, laboratory oversight, labeling clarity, and potential public data, feel like a package. They aren't just trying to improve a product category. They are trying to improve the credibility pipeline that turns scientific testing into consumer confidence. If you take a step back and think about it, this is what modern regulation looks like: less blind faith, more auditable evidence. So what should you, as a consumer, take away from all this while Australia figures out the next rules? Personally, I say you should treat SPF labels as helpful, but not magic. Follow the category of exposure you're actually dealing with, reapply as directed, and remember that sunscreen performance depends on proper application, not just the printed number. The bigger open question for me is this: will the new system make consumers more informed, or just more confused in a different way? In my opinion, the best approach would keep science transparent while making labeling intuitive, without sacrificing comparability. And I'm genuinely curious how Australia's final policy will land in the consultation, because once this changes, it will shape the global conversation about how we verify everyday health claims. If you want, tell me what you think. Should sunscreen be regulated mostly through stronger testing and public evidence, or should the label itself be redesigned, even if it breaks international numerical comparisons?